All right, we have finally made it. It is finally the first match week of the 2021-22 A-League men's season. It has arrived. It is so exciting, and I can't believe it's finally here. Kickoff is just a couple of days away, and we have another huge episode of the Coastwatch Football Podcast here for you today. It's part 2 of our season preview series, getting some A-League content creators involved to preview the upcoming season and give their predictions. So today I'm so excited to announce that I've got the guys from A-League Couch Critics joining me. A-League Couch Critics, a YouTube channel. They do some really, really good stuff over there. So I'll have all their stuff linked down in the description. And if you do want to jump straight to that part of the podcast, I'll make sure to include some timestamps down in the description if you want to jump straight to there. That's where we're going to be doing our sort of general A-League season preview. But in this episode, I'm also going to be doing a specific preview on my team, the Central Coast Mariners, giving my thoughts on how I think we will go for this upcoming season. We're also going to be doing some recap on, of course, we've had some FFA Cup games over the weekend, which has been a bit of a dress rehearsal for the A-League season. And also talk about the FFA Cup draw. Of course, more round of 16 matches have been announced as well. But before we jump into that, I do want to let you guys know a little bit, give you guys an insight to sort of the content schedule moving forward as we enter this season. It has been really exciting bringing you guys all the content for pre-season. We've been doing our ladder prediction, predicting some lineups and talking about some exciting things. But I'm really, really excited to announce that I'm going to be doing some match watch-alongs here live on YouTube. And this upcoming round, I'm going to be doing 2. I'm going to be doing one on Friday night as we watch Melbourne City take on Brisbane Roar, the first game for the season. And I'm also going to be doing a match watch-along for the Sydney Derby. That's on Saturday night prime time. And that one should be really interesting, actually, because I'm curious to see how the simulcast thing is going to be going. If you don't know, basically there's 2 kickoffs happening at the same time on Saturday night. It's going to be the Sydney Derby and, of course, Western United playing Melbourne Victory. Tony Popovich and John Aloisi. So many talking points on that Saturday night alone. And then even later on, there's another game kicking off between Perth Glory and Adelaide United, potentially a debut for Daniel Sturridge. This is such an exciting week of A-League football. Can't tell, not sure if you can tell if I'm excited or not, but yeah, dude, I'm just so keen to get into it. It's been a long wait, that's for sure. And apart from that, there's going to be some round preview episodes happening every single Thursday. So on YouTube, every Thursday, I'll be here giving my preview and predictions for the upcoming A-League round. And then on every Monday, I'm going to be doing a breakdown, a recap episode, breaking down all the action from the week in football. And of course, every Tuesday, the podcast is still sticking around here. And keep an eye out as well, because there's going to be a lot more fan interaction on the podcast, getting fans involved, with more interviews, more of a discussion, more of like a roundtable sort of thing. So that's what the podcast is sort of going to become moving forward. But yeah, you'll see me, chatting my stuff on the previews and review episodes as well every Monday and Thursday. And then the last thing I did want to mention as well is that I've just started up the Twitch channel as well. I've been doing a couple streams there over on Twitch. So make sure you follow Coastwatch Football on Twitch if you want to see some of my gameplay stuff as well. Let's jump into some FFA Cup results, because there were some interesting ones, some big results. Western Sydney Wanderers defeating Broadmeadow Magic 3-0. Hume City defeated Port Melbourne 3-1. A convincing win for Melbourne City. They defeated South Melbourne 3-0. I watched that game and they were absolutely dominant. If we learned anything from this past weekend in the FFA Cup, it's that Melbourne City are absolutely not putting their foot off the pedal. You know what I mean? Like, they look as strong as ever. So they are certainly the team to beat once again heading into this season. Of course, my Central Coast Mariners defeating Blacktown City out there in Mudgee. I was out of the game. Really, really fun experience. Good to get back out to live football. Also on that Saturday, Hamilton Olympic lost out to Macarthur FC 3-0. A couple more games still yet to be played in the round of 32. And of course, we had the very first playoff to get into the round of 32. That was between Western United and Newcastle Jets. Western picking up a 2-1 win in what was a pretty controversial game. So yeah, some interesting results there. And as I've mentioned, it's sort of a good little teaser, like a taster to sort of warm us up for the kickoff of the A-League men's season, which of course is just a couple days away. And just in brand new news as well. Of course, this just happened in this past day, the draw for some of the round of 16 matchups as well. So let's run through some of those for you now. Mariners will be travelling to play Wollongong Wolves, a team that the Mariners did play in the FFA Cup quite a few years ago. Hume City will be taking on Melbourne City. Interesting clash, that one. Avondale will be playing the winner of Western United and Wellington Phoenix. And then Western Sydney Wanderers will be playing the winner of Tigers FC and Apia Leichhardt. So, and one more as well. Sydney Olympic and Sydney FC, of course, still yet to play their game. The winner of that game will be playing Macarthur FC. So, it's going to be interesting as well, seeing how the FFA Cup is sort of integrated into this upcoming season, looking like it's just pretty much going to be, midweek games throughout the season, which, I guess is going to test the depth of some of the squads at A-League level. But yeah, again, excited just to have, more football, the better, you know what I mean? So those are some of the FFA Cup. That's all the latest in terms of the FFA Cup. But let's jump into right now my season preview for my Central Coast Mariners. And I just want to say a couple of things in terms of how the season's going to look moving forward. And it was really, really good. I was, really sort of, interested to see how we were going to go in this FFA Cup game. And I did a match reaction. Video, which I put up. So if you want to check that one out, if you're on YouTube, I'll make sure to put like a card up somewhere so you can go and check that out if you'd like to. But basically, with my full thoughts there, just to recap that, overall, it was a decent performance. It certainly wasn't amazing. There were some shaky things here. I was really impressed with the young guys. Max Ballard, Jacob Farrell played really, really well, and I think there's my main takeaway, as I mentioned in that match reaction video, is that there's a really solid sort of structure there. The basis of the team is the basis of a successful A-League team is there. Oli Bozanic was leading the guys so well. And there was a lot of promising signs from some of the new guys. Benny Kololo, of course, great to get his first competitive goal in Australia. And then, Maresh came on. I think Damien Sukenis is going to have a big season this year as well. Cy Goddard got a couple minutes at the end as well. So there's some depth as well, especially in attack for this Mariners side. But moving forward for Nick Montgomery, I think the question is, can the Mariners match the heights we did last year? And, I have touched on it in podcast episodes previously, and the answer is no. I don't think we are going to match. I don't think we're simply not going to finish third. Having said that, again, people were predicting us to finish last once again last season, and with a squad which initially looked undermanned heading into the season, managed to finish third. So, anything could happen, but you could say this. You could say the same for any of the teams. Melbourne Victory finished last season, but there's a good chance they could finish up into the top four this year. So, I think the key thing for the Mariners though is that we try and maintain a little bit of stability, and by that I mean not simply drop down to the bottom again. The goal for Nick Montgomery is to finish in the finals, I reckon. It has to be just to sneak into the top six. That's where I reckon we will finish in fifth, in sixth. Hopefully, it's going to be so hard. Even that is going to be so difficult because this season, in my opinion, is, arguably the standard. The standard of players and the squads in the A-League this season is so tight across all of the clubs. It's going to be so difficult to break into that top six. But some key players to keep an eye for. I do want to mention some key personnel. I think Marco Renia is going to have a huge season. And for a couple of reasons. First of all, at the back end of last year, overall with last season, he came in late, but he got progressively better and better game by game. And especially in those last few games, he was one of our star players. And, he's not just one of those strikers, one of those star strikers that just sort of sits up top and, he's just there to bang in the goals and all that. Marco works hard. He works so hard each game. He's linking up play. He's almost playing as a playmaker. And we saw that against Blacktown City. He was dropping off a little bit and, teeing up the wingers, trying to slide it in for Simo up top, So for me, Orenya has to be one of the first names on the team sheet. I think he's going to be one to watch out for. And there's a good chance that he could be the Golden Boot winner for at least the Mariners. And, if our playmakers get clicking, if Nick Alamola stays fit, he could tee up someone like Orenya. There's a chance that we could see, easily in the double digits for Marco Orenya if he gets firing early, which I think he will. And that the other point I wanted to mention is the fact that he's got a full preseason under his belt. That's certainly an important factor heading into this season for the Costa Rican. Some other key players that I do want to bring up. Max Ballard, I think, is going to have is going to be a key player for us this season. I think people were maybe half expecting, or we've been talking about, in the center of midfield after losing Gianni, that it was going to be Niz and Ollie starting in the middle, but Monty went for Max for that FFA Cup game, and he looked so good. He looked really, really good. He showed glimpses last season in his couple of bench appearances, but just he was very calm on the ball. He was smart with his passes. He, just those little attributes just go to show that, considering he's still so young, and especially when you put him alongside someone like Oli Bozanic, it's the perfect guy for him to play alongside in the center of the park. So we could potentially see a breakout season for someone like Max Ballard. And then on top of that as well, I just want to mention, I guess, the core, because I don't necessarily want to pick out any ones in particular, because we're not sure who's going to perform the best, I guess, but the inputs that we have brought in, particularly the three foreigners in Maresh, Benny, and Sai Goddard. And I'm really, really excited to see how all of them go. We've probably seen Benny the most. Obviously, he got a really solid run in the FFA Cup and grabbed that goal. I think he's got potential to really succeed at A-League level. Same thing with Sai Goddard. We're hearing big things from Sai. I believe he was carrying an injury heading into the FFA Cup game, which was maybe a factor as to why he didn't start. And Mateus Maresh as well. Again, we've seen from the YouTube highlights and stuff that, he was banging in the goals in Singapore. And he did get limited time in the FFA Cup as well, but I think he's a player that could succeed as well because, again, if you have a talented Brazilian striker like that playing alongside Orenia, who, as I mentioned, is almost like a playmaker in a way, / striker, and then if you've got, creative players alongside him inside Goddard and Nikolai Muller. Of course, Nikolai Muller is the name that people almost keep forgetting about. Of course, he missed out in the FFA Cup with injury, but I'm just getting excited thinking about the attacking combinations that the Mariners have at their disposal this season. And, I've been following this club since day one, and I can't remember a time where, even since our grand final winning year, where the attack has been so, I'm not going to say lethal because, again, we don't know. These players could flop. Hopefully they won't. But there's just a lot of combinations. There's a lot of options. We're basically going to be playing with 4 attacking players this season, the 2 wingers and then the 2 through the middle. So many options. You can play Maresh on the wing. Where does Nikolai Muller fit into all of this? Who do we start up top? Is it Orenia and Simo? Is it Maresh and Orenia? Do we throw Damien Sekenis in there? Does Nikolai Muller play as a striker? I'm going on and on. I'm rambling now, but hopefully you get the point. So there's certainly a lot of excitement heading into this season as a Mariners fan. So if you are a Mariners fan, there is a lot of reason to be excited. And again, I'm talking a lot about attack. Good to remember that the defense is going to be really a lot of stability in defense now. Tongic, Rolls, Birigidi, still the re-signings of them are as important as any of the new signings that we have made. And of course, bringing in someone like Storm Roof for a little bit more experience in there as well. So that's just a little bit of my insight into this in terms of how I think the Mariners will go this season. I think we're certainly I think in the early rounds we will be losing some games. I think we can expect to have some shaky performances. Especially just sort of integrating some of those new guys, getting them up to scratch at A-League level. And then after that, I can see us having some success. And hopefully, we can balance things out and just sneak into the top 6. That's my prediction for this year. Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening to me ramble, guys. But let's jump into some listener questions right now. Of course, on Twitter, Instagram, stories, you guys have been sending in the listener questions, which I do appreciate. So, actually, this sort of ties nicely into the sort of this discussion I've just been having about my team, the Mariners. And it's Marty Mariner. He mentions here in his comments. So, what does a poor season look like for the Mariners? So, for me, a poor season would be to finish bottom 4. And it's sort of nice now in the A-League because there almost is a punishment for finishing specifically bottom 4 because you don't get secured a place in the FFA Cup. As we've seen, there's now the playoff system. So, there's almost, to avoid finishing 9th or lower, there's almost just a little bit of added incentive there. I think if we finished, and this could be a controversial thing to say as a Mariners fan, but I think if we finish 8th, that's not a poor season. Let me explain. You have to take into, yes, we did finish 3rd and we're one of the best teams in the country last season, but you have to take into consideration the last several years. Going right back to 2014, when we made the finals previously, and it's been so poor. I think last season, Mariners fans are feeling so optimistic now, and as we should. It was a fantastic season, but we can't forget how poor we were. The low points from some of these previous seasons were so low. Some of the worst standard of football we've seen in A-League history. You'd have to say, picking up 4 wooden spoons in 5 years is simply like unacceptable. And that's why Alan Stadgich's turnaround of the team was so massive, because he took this team from a table that was just guaranteed to finish at the bottom each season and turned them into not just a finals finishing team, but we were sitting top of the table for half the season, which is still just an incredible feat. So for a poor season, I think bottom 4 would be a poor season, because we do still have generally the same squad as I've touched on earlier. Some of the key players are still there, especially in defense, and Ollie as well still there. So I think a poor season will be finishing bottom 4. But considering the other side of things, considering how competitive the A-League is this season, to finish just outside the 6, if we just missed out, I wouldn't be that disappointed. Just knowing how... having said that, it's going to be interesting, if the nature of us missing out, if we just if we do really, really well and then end up losing the last 10 games, that would be frustrating. But I think if we just slipped out, like last season, teams like, Wanderers and it was Phoenix that just missed out. It was close. It was really, really close. It was coming down to those last couple of weeks where those teams were almost there. So, yeah, man, hopefully we will finish finals. And of course, we've got some more questions coming in. Oh, okay, this is actually an interesting one. Santi asks, what are your score predictions for the opening round? Of course, I will be doing, as I mentioned, my round preview episode on Thursday, so make sure to stay tuned for my full predictions and analysis heading into round 1. But off the top of my head right now, I'm going to go for Melbourne City 3-1 win, Sydney Derby 3-2 to Wanderers. It's going to be a big game. Western United and Melbourne victory is the one I keep flipping on. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think it's going to be tough to split. I think both sides are looking good this year. I think Perth Glory will defeat Adelaide United, with apparently we're hearing a big crowd there at Perth Glory for what's sounding like Daniel Sturridge's first game in the A-League. I reckon Perth might win that one 2-1. Sunday F3 Derby. I'm trying not to be biased here. I will go draw. I will go draw because I shouldn't be biased. Because Jets always get up for the F3 Derby, especially out there in Newcastle. They're so hard. They're so tough to break down. I can't remember the last time we've had a really dominant performance up there in Newcastle, specifically in Newcastle. And especially after watching Jets in the FFA Cup on the weekend, they're going to be a lot more competitive this season. So I'm going to say 2-2, which would be awesome. That'd be an exciting game, a 2-2 game. And I'd take that. A draw to start off the season against, what I think is going to be a difficult place to go to this season in Newcastle. And as well, of course, we've got one more game, Macarthur and Wellington Phoenix. As I mentioned in my ladder prediction video that I did the other week, I think Phoenix will struggle this year. I think Macarthur will get the win. I reckon 3-0. I reckon 3-0 that one. A win for the Bulls to start off this season. We've got this is a good question in from Jacob. What's your hot take for round 1? Not just any hot take, but your hot take. Okay. I don't know if you'd call it a hot take, but people have been thinking that Daniel Sturridge won't play because he's coming in so late. It's sounding like Perth Glory absolutely are doing everything they can to throw him onto the pitch. I reckon Sturridge comes on and scores a double in the final 10 minutes of the game, and the HBF Park goes off. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I'm hoping, because people, I think that's sort of almost the I feel like no one's predicting that. I feel like everyone's saying he's going to get injured, he's going to miss out here and there. I reckon Sturridge comes on for Bruno Fornaroli with 10 minutes to spare and scores a double or something like that. You know what I mean? But apart from that, yeah, I'm not sure, dude. It's hard. It's hard to do a hot take because we don't know, because anything could happen in round 1. I guess maybe another hot take could be maybe Brisbane upset Melbourne City in the first game of the season. That would be interesting. As a neutral, I'd love that, because Melbourne City are absolutely favourites, and they've got every right to be this season. But imagine if they lost at home. to Brisbane at home in their first game of the season. That'd create some drama heading into this campaign. But yeah, so hopefully that sort of answers your questions. But I don't know if those are necessarily hot takes. But yeah, as always, guys, thanks so much for sending in those questions. I wish I could get to them all, but we are going to jump into the chat that I had with A-League Couch Critics right now. Let's do it. Hope you enjoy. Okay, joining me to help out with some more season predictions. You might recognize these guys from YouTube. It's the A-League Couch Critics. How's it going, guys?
Yeah, good.
I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to join me. Let's jump straight into some of the teams that we can expect to maybe finish at the top of the ladder. And it's probably worth mentioning, Brad, you're obviously a Western Sydney Wanderers fan with the jersey there. And Sog, I believe you're a Sydney FC fan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I tried to be neutral today. I'm trying.
I got the new jersey, so I just want to show it off.
Of course. Yeah, I don't blame you. But starting up the top, for me at least, and I know for a lot of people as well, when it comes to teams like Melbourne City and Sydney FC, they're the top two for me. The question that I want to open up for you guys is, do you see any other sides besides Sydney FC or Melbourne City challenging for that top two? And if so, who would it be?
No. The short answer is no. Maybe Victory, but they burnt us all last year. Good signings on paper, but just no gelling. Maybe a bit better with Popper, but they're probably the only one who could get close, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Melbourne City is a surety of finishing the top two. I don't think Sydney FC is that sure. I think there's Melbourne City, and then there's a core group of teams I think they can challenge for the top two. I think Melbourne Victory, I think they've signed really well. They've brought in Tony Popovic. I think last year was never really convinced that Melbourne Victory would go particularly well. I never thought they'd go as bad as they did. But I think City for sure. And I think, Sydney FC, Melbourne Victory, the Wanderers will be fighting around for those top four, from second to fourth.
Yeah, I have to agree with you as well. Melbourne Victory for me, definitely up there as well. Let's talk about some of the ins and outs, some of the play movement at some of those top sides. So starting off with Melbourne City, some of the big outs, Adrian Luna, Craig Noon. But they've replaced pretty well with, Matthew Leckie, this Italian attacking midfielder, Manuel Picchiarelli. How do you guys feel how this City side is shaping up for this upcoming season? And do you reckon Leckie will come back and really be able to perform returning to the A-League?
Front three for City is just unreal. If Naboo stays fit, and Leckie is definitely an upgrade on Craig Noon. Craig Noon, no offense, but he's a great player, but Leckie's just a step above. He's a bit younger. Is he? I hope he's younger. he seems younger the way he plays. And then McLaren, you just expect him to pick up from where he left off. They've definitely got goals in them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the top three, if they can click, if Leckie can click with the other two guys, I think it could be one of the best top three we've ever seen in the A-League. But yeah, they haven't brought in too many players. I don't think they've needed to because their team was really solid last year, and I think they've brought in, obviously, Leckie, and who else did they bring in? Oh no, they brought in Rami Nazarene, but I think he left straight away. Hang on. Matt Leckie's the major signing, and I think he'll complement that team really well.
Looking as well at Sydney FC, sort of the team who has been up and around there for the last couple of years. And again, as I mentioned, not too much play movement there. Personally, I like the signings of Max Burgess, Connor O'Toole, Elvis Cam Sober. Maybe Sog, if we want to start with you being the Sydney FC fan. And as well, James Donachie, I should mention, has come to the side. Being the Sydney FC fan, Sog, how do you feel about the Sky Blues side? Are they still strong enough to maintain that position at the top of the table?
I think you just can't underestimate the longevity of the squad. They've been consistent. They've kept that same core squad together. And when you got leaders like Brillante and Ninkovic, Adam Lafondra, I think they're still people have been writing them off, but I think they're still not going to be that far off City. They actually only finished a couple of points off City come the end of the season last year.
Go a bit slow towards the end of the season when they already wrapped it up. Which like Sydney FC did the year before.
Lafondra wasn't there at the start of the season. And so, look, I don't think they've really upgraded. Max Burgess is definitely probably the best signing because he adds something, particularly for an aging Ninkovic. If you can take Ninkovic off and put Max Burgess on in the last 20 minutes of a game, that's going to scare teams. Ken Sober, to his credit, scoring goals in preseason, so his speed will come in handy. James Donachie is definitely a downgrade on Ryan McGowan though. So yeah, look, it's not the worst off season, but there's no standouts really.
And I guess that can sort of segue nicely to Brad, where we can talk about the Western Sydney Wanderers. You sort of you guys touched on them there about potentially being one of those teams to challenge and maybe finish in the top four. Brad, for you, how do you feel being a Wanderers fan heading into this season? You confident?
I'll never say confident because I never really feel confident, no matter what team I'm supporting. I think, though, on paper, we've probably up there with Melbourne Victory, probably recruited probably the best out of all the teams. But the big thing is, you bring in all these good signings. It's all about how they gel together as a team. And I thought last year, on paper, MacArthur probably had one of the best teams. And they gelled well, but probably not as well as I thought they would have. And I think that's the job Carl Robertson will have, is getting all these players to play together, because it's quite a lot of new players that have come in. I'm really excited for Tomer Hamed because he scored quite a lot of goals at Wellington. It was quite exciting to watch. And Reece Williams, he's going to be our captain this year. It's hard to tell how they'll go because, City and Sydney FC, they've kind of retained the same kind of players for the past couple of years, and they've performed quite well when you keep that same core group together. And that'll be the challenge for the Wanderers and Victory as well, I think, with such a lot of new players coming to the team. But I think, if they can click, I think top four, that no doubt, I think we should be finishing top four with this kind of team we've got.
He might be answered right though. I think Tomer Hamed, he's a good striker, but he's not better than Mitchell Duke. I'm actually worried about the Wanderers scoring goals, and I actually think, here's my hot take, Carl Robinson will be sacked 8 games into the season. I don't think they'll make the 6. I actually don't. I'm not impressed, and I'm trying to remove as much bias as I can as a Sydney fan, but I think it's going to be the same old from Wanderers from the last couple of seasons. A bit of promise, but actually a bit lackluster when it comes down to it.
Interesting.
You say whatever you want. I'm not gonna say what I think about Sydney FC because I'll just look biased. But I think Mitchell Duke will be a big loss because, being a kid from the western suburbs, he was very passionate for the club, and he was a real proud captain of our club, and he will be missed because he always gave it 100%. And Bruce Kamau, I was actually a bit disappointed he left. Brings a lot of speed to the team. I'm cheering about Dylan McGowan going. See you later. I'll drive you to the airport. See you later. I'll pay for the tickets. Okay, he wasn't that bad, but he wasn't fantastic. And Nikolai Muller, he's off to Central Coast as well. You're very impressed about his signing as well. But I don't think we'll miss Nikolai too much. But, I'm excited. I don't think I've been as excited for quite a while with the Wanderers. But yeah, definitely, I'm trying to be a bit more impartial compared to Samuel. I do think, there is the potential of we could go really well, or it could be a real balls up, and we could miss out on the top 6. And that's probably similar to Melbourne Victory when you brought in so many new players and you're expecting to go well. The pressure is there, and it might just not click.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you guys have raised some interesting points there. There'll certainly be one to watch for this season. Melbourne Victory, again, up in that discussion for that top 4. Tony Popovich back coaching in the A-League. How do you think Popper's going to go with this new look Victory side? Are they going to turn things around after such an abysmal season last year?
Well, I don't think they can get any worse.
That's true.
I think Popper has shown that especially when he came to the Wanderers and when he went to Perth, he's very good at coming in, bringing in a whole lot of players and playing the way he wants to play and getting results. He may not have won a grand final, but still 4 grand finals for him. That's a pretty top achievement. I don't know if any other coaches got to that many grand finals. Yeah, he'll still cop the stick of never winning a grand final, but I'm confident he can turn around this team to be maybe not contenders, but I think top 6. They've got to be making the top 6 with the players they've brought in and with the experience they have as a coach. Samuel.
Yeah, there's good signs. I personally think Josh Brillante is probably one of the best pickups they've made. He's just a quality midfielder. He tried it over in Greece, and maybe he's just realised actually playing in the A-League is good. It's where he stands out as just a really good ball-playing midfielder. So I think he's quite a good signing. Be interesting to see how this goalkeeper goes, though. Wanderers as well. Using up a visa spot on a goalkeeper is always a bit of a risk because But I mean, he looks like a big lad. Maybe he might be hard to get past, but yeah, so some other good signs like the Spaniard Ryan Machan.
I'm a big fan of Matthew Sporanovic. I think
Yeah, Spears is a great
on his
signing
day,
too.
I think he can be one of the best in the comp in the back line. But on his day,
Yeah.
he hasn't played much football recently.
And Nicholas D'Agostino, like if he can find a team and a coach to really play for, to fit in with, on his day, he's a fantastic striker, can really cause some trouble. Popper's just got to, give him the boot up backside and make sure he's playing week in, week out.
So, for me at least, when I look at the top six, and especially that top four, I don't know if you guys have sort of mapped out your ladder predictions for this season, but for me, it is Melbourne City, Sydney FC. I've got Melbourne Victory third and then Wanderers fourth. What does the top six at least look like for you guys? Have you got that rounded out? Who else do you see slotting into maybe fifth and sixth?
Well, I was doing some searching around and looking at signings from teams. And I'm actually quite impressed with Adelaide. When I look at the squad depth of the entire league, I actually think they've got two good players in pretty much every position, which might actually help their away form this season. I think usually they're a side that they're really hard to beat at home, but on the road they're a bit inconsistent. But the depth that they've been able to kind of create this season actually gets me a little bit excited. My old buddy Jacob Tratt played with him in the under 16s and 18s. Signing for Adelaide, it just bolsters their back line. I think they're actually going to be red hot right throughout the season and really challenge for that top six.
I wouldn't, because my top six keeps changing. What I picked, a couple of weeks ago, like I was banking on MacArthur. Like I hate, but I'm going to do it anyway. I hate it when people predict the Premier is going to be the one from last, or the champion's going to be the one from last year. But I'm doing that with Melbourne City. But I was going to pick MacArthur, but obviously we've heard rumours and whispers about what's going on MacArthur, so I'm not as confident as I am with the Bulls. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was a all Melbourne and Sydney top six. With Western United and MacArthur sneaking in there. But then, oh, man, it's hard to pick. And then you can't count, I'm not impressed with Brisbane Roar, but they always find a way to make the finals year on, year out.
True.
It's tough. And like you say with Adelaide as well, it's really hard. I'd put MacArthur in and maybe, it's really hard. I think first for me is I'm confident with City, but, the next 8-9 positions on the ladder, it's really hard to pick.
Don't even throw Perth Glory out of the conversation with
Yeah.
Daniel Sturridge. If he can manage to stay fit, he's going to light up the league, especially with someone like Brendan O'Neill behind him. I mean, that's such a good signing for the entire A-League. He could have been their marquee signing, and then they go and pull Sturridge out of the bag. So, I mean,
I think Newcastle's recruited quite well as well in the off-season. I think they'll be massive improvers. And I love to see your boys Central Coast, because it was just really good to see them perform so well last year. I'd love them to see the top six. It might be a bit beyond them at the moment, but it's really hard, and I think it's going to be really close. Probably from about second to 9th or 10th on the ladder. It should be a really exciting season.
Yeah, I think that just goes to show how this has the potential to be the best A-League season we've ever seen. I'm exactly the same. For me, when it comes to at least 5th to 11th, it's so hard to lock in. It could be anything, because everyone's recruited so well. I'd love to pick out some of those teams that you mentioned there, though, because there's some interesting ones to touch on. I think first of all we can talk about Newcastle Jets, who have brought in so many players and of course gotten rid of a lot of players as well. And it's an interesting one. They're very tricky to predict for me too, because at least some names will be familiar to A-League fans. I guess in defence, Dane Ingham, Jordan Elsey, Matty Ehrman. But a lot of these players that have come over from overseas that really are unknowns to Australian football fans. Newcastle again underperforming last year. The Jets fans are talking big things for this season, potentially a push for the top six. Do you think that's a realistic possibility for this Jets squad this year?
No, I think depth is it's the big thing I think Adelaide have done right. I don't know if Newcastle have it. I think 2 injuries could see derailment of their squad. I mean, there's some exciting signing. Olivier Bumal, Cameroonian international. Like, I'm not sure how he's gone. Yeah, Newcastle Jets would be a good place to go, but signings like that, and the Georgian. I mean, I'll attempt his name, Mikeladze. We don't know much about him, but anytime I think the A-League has worked out how to find these rough diamonds in, Eastern Europe, Milos Ninkovic is probably the shining example, but it's probably going to, they've got a good front line, but they're the Jets, on any given day, they could just fall to bits. And I think they'll have one of those seasons where they rock up to the F3 derby and have a absolute amazing performance, and then next week play Western United and get spanked 6-0,
Yeah, it's that inconsistency.
Yeah. They could put in a challenge for the top 6, but I can't see them going the distance, the full 26 rounds. I think with the squad they could go close, but I think compared to the other teams, there's probably a bit more class than the other teams. No offense to Newcastle.
They have signed Ellie Babels though. Oh, mate, what a throwback!
True. Bit of a random one. Another team that I'd like to touch on that I feel like is maybe we can consider them dark horses this season. It's John Aloisi and Western United. Well, Aloisi, again, another coach returning to the A-League. And again, another side who has made some fascinating signings, some A-League experience with Neil Kilkenny, Jamie Young, Nikolai Topper-Stanley, and some European players, again, have come into the side, Prijovic, René Krin, Leo Lacroix. When you look at the side on paper, I reckon it looks pretty decent. But again, I feel like not a lot of people putting them up there as a shout for the top 6. How do you think John Aloisi is going to go returning to the A-League at Western United?
I wonder if John Aloisi is the reason why people aren't rating them, because you list those signings, those 3 new visa spot players have some real pedigree. Prijovic, there's so many good strikers in the league this season. Like you said, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I know that Western just have that roaming kind of. I think that's their downfall is they just don't have a home, and it surely how much a home crowd can win a match for a team, and their home games, even in a derby, they're just swamped by the other teams. There's only 3,000 people cheering for the green and black. And I think that does actually make an impact on them. So, I mean, they've definitely got the quality. And if Diamanti can continue to lead from the front and, just if the other players they've signed bring that kind of class, they're definitely going to play good football. Whether or not they'll win matches, though, that's probably the other question.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can make top 6, but I think a lot of teams can make the top 6. I think it's a really good team, and like I said before, I think wouldn't be surprised if the top 6 is all Sydney and Victorian clubs.
Yeah.
And then like I said, Macarthur and Western might make out the rest of that 6, but Adelaide, Brisbane, Central Coast, and like there's so many options. But I think they've got a good chance to make the top 6.
How good a signing is Jamie Young, by the way? Like,
oh yeah,
he was a fantastic. He was probably robbed of getting the best goalkeeper last season.
Who got it last year?
I'm pretty sure Redmayne took it again last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah. So but
you can only some players that play there. Glover, Federici. But anyway,
Jamie Young's a fantastic goalkeeper, and I think that's kind of flown under the radar. Just it still seems a bit like it's an old boys club down at Western. But hey, mate, class is permanent.
That's right. Well, as we sort of creep towards the bottom of the ladder now, we have touched on here and there on a number of teams. I'm interested to hear who you guys think are going to pick up the wooden spoon this year. For me personally, there's a team that is locked at the bottom of the table, and it pains me to say this because I do enjoy watching them, and I think they've got a great coach. But Wellington Phoenix for me. Just when you look at their signings, losing players like De Vea, Stephen Taylor, Tom Mohamed, Cam Devlin, and they haven't really recruited with the same level of quality. Who's picking up the wooden spoon for you guys this year?
Wellington.
Yeah.
I can't see it. And, hopefully they won't be away from New Zealand for the whole season, probably the first month or two. But it's so hard, this, being based overseas away from their family and their true supporter base. And like you said, they haven't recruited that well compared to what they've lost. You didn't mention Mirza Muratovic there from Oberon out way, but that's all right. I don't think anyone noticed he left. But they're just, I can't see them winning many games. Like, I love Wellington. I love seeing them do well. And I think it's good for the A-League when, Wellington are doing well and there's good crowds there in New Zealand. But I can't see them finishing above 12th, unfortunately.
I think they might just have to write this year off as a bit of a development year. They've got a really young squad and some really exciting young players. I mean, Ben Waine really took off last season. They've signed Luca Prichot from Newcastle, who actually showed some touches of real quality last year. Yeah. And I still think Reno Piscopo is one of the most underrated kind of playmakers in the league.
Yeah.
I think
Hooper's there as well.
Yeah, look, David Ball, Gary Hooper, they've got the quality to get some results, but unfortunately, yeah, I think it's just the second season running, and just they just haven't really brought in anyone as a standout to really help them out. So, look, they'll battle valiantly, and we love that about Wellington, but yeah, they're last for me as well.
Well, it's setting up to be an epic season. And guys, thank you so much for featuring on the Coast Watch Football podcast to provide your insight for the upcoming season. Of course, if you want to check out A-League Couch Critics, I'll make sure to have their stuff linked in the description. Once again, Brad and Sog, cheers.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Well, that wraps up today's podcast episode. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed these last two podcast episodes, last week with Sunday Ballers and this week with Brad and Sog from A-League Couch Critics. Hope to see you guys on a live stream this week. Of course, the match watch-alongs happening Friday night and Saturday night. It's happening here live on YouTube. Until then, guys, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.